Oh,
And we're
okay, we're
back.
really starting that way. Oh my God. Okay, go on,
You said it was cool.
Mo.
But yeah.
Go on.
Man. So yeah, we were just talking about this. We have not recorded since December with Helen. A great episode, but I think there's a lot we wanted to reflect on personally. A lot has happened in the world
Six
with
months.
us. Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, people are asking me. I did not expect that, but like a couple of weeks ago, somebody actually asked me, "What happened to your podcast?" And I was like, "I haven't seen a new episode in a while." I'm like, "Oh, people actually listen to it. Shit, we better record a new one."
To be fair to you, Mo, I don't think it was any shift in your schedule. It was more me moving because even though my background looks the same, I'm now in sunny Salzburg rather than dreary Dusseldorf. No, that's bad. I like Dusseldorf. But yeah, so I just to kind of put a pin in it, I have actually moved not continents, countries this time,
Well, I
but still not
mean,
back at least.
something we're going to talk about is obviously we're going to talk about the conflict, right? Like that has had its taken its toll in many ways for me, at least here, is that I was stuck outside the country. I was stuck in an airport for a few days, and then I got stuck in a different country for a few weeks before I could finally make my way back. So
What- What's funny is it seems to have also impacted the car market. It feels like many fewer people, does that make sense? Many fewer people are actually buying cars. Whereas Mo, I think you've gone on a different trajectory with your car buying habits. You've not followed the market. You've gone in since we've recorded. You've exploded your not just Hot Wheels collection.
yeah, well, we'll get back to that, right? Like, but there are good deals to be had. There are distress sales happening, and I'm not going to say like, I mean, I bought my car off a friend of ours, actually, one of them at least, and I was just trying to help out, and I'm not even necessarily sure if I want to keep the car at this point, but it is an interesting car. So,
Well, I
despite
mean,
what
it's just
Celia Yassine will say.
it is a reflection of, like we said, the moment that there has been a massive impact on the region. I'd say introducing instability, especially in the upper end of the market to the Middle East, has been probably the worst thing that could have happened from a global perspective. The biggest luxury car markets have always been America, became China, and then growing was the Middle East. So since the trade war kicked off, I think a lot of manufacturers have said, and I've heard it from their own mouths, that they're trying to plug the hole in demand by looking towards the Middle East, and that was just before the conflict had started. So it's kind
It's
of
not
uh, I don't know about
well, like
irony, but it is a thing. Go on.
yeah, well, it goes. It's not just the upper end of the market, right? Like in China, you have an oversupply problem. They are building more cars domestically than they have demand for. So yes, while a lot of I guess Chinese sorry, I'm muted for a second. I don't know why I did that. But while a lot of customers have moved increasingly to domestically made cars because they've gotten so much better than everyone else's to a certain extent. Um, there's also the fact that they're making too many of their own cars. I think the fact that they've been completely or almost completely locked out of the U.S. and there are restrictions in other markets and stuff make the Middle East a prime ground for market expansion or sales expansion, right?
I mean
And
that's a good point, because I feel like what's actually happening is the supply is so high that it's creating pressure, and that pressure is now pushing other markets to just accept them. Because as I think you mentioned it earlier, they are actually appearing in Europe. They are appearing, but I think it's just because there's like, if you, as an analogy almost, the it's like the tap is on full blast, but someone's holding it shut, and you can only hold it shut for so long. They are seeping into many different markets through whatever way they can. So in the US, like you said, they are coming through Canada and Mexico, and here they're coming through the UK. They are coming though. Sorry.
yeah, was it JQ became with the J7, I think is what it's called. It's the number one selling car in the UK right now, or it was at least very recently. It topped their sales charts. They've just announced that they're buying excess capacity at Nissan Sunderland plant in the UK. So I think Nissan has, in perennially struggling Nissan,
Mm.
is trying to free up production capacity in order. They're renting out capacity to make money, right? And of course, the Chinese snapped it up because that gives them a route into the rest of Europe. So
And
there's that.
they've got deals on co-development um, of cars as well. There's so many cars coming. There's if you've heard of Horse, do you remember the engine? There's an engine manufacturer now with Chinese with Renault, I believe, that are making engines together. That
Well,
Jayco is a cherry, and
it's going into the Emira, isn't it? The horse engine. And that's
yes,
the
yes,
controversy. Like they're dropping the Toyota and AMG engines for a horse engine with a four-speed torque converter automatic. It's like the 1980s.
I still don't believe the gearbox thing
What do
because
you
if
feel?
there's one, huh?
They said it. That isn't that an official statement that this is what the new engine and new gearbox is going to be? That's what Lotus said.
We're ping ponging. I want to add one point to that.
Yeah.
Since we've recorded as well, Ferrari decided to kind of take a massive step forward and actually show the world. I'm going to shut my window. Hold on, because of the welcome to Europe, the church bells.
That's cool.
Decided to show the world that it can move into the future with an electric car. Why it's relevant is because the enthusiast response to it has been, I think, very single-minded in its dissatisfaction with it. What the reason I'm mentioning that is because the gearbox is so bad for what the car is, and that car's audience is purely enthusiast. I'd say
Yeah.
90% enthusiast. Which person would like? What's the Venn diagram of I don't care about this gearbox, and I'm an enthusiast who buy a Lotus? I don't, like, there's no crossover. But I
I
think
will say
before we
this
jump into
anecdotally. I need to see, I would need to see some kind of breakdown or something on this. I don't have numbers, but what I have seen shortly before I logged off Instagram for a while, is that the Emira, at least in the UAE, did seem to be picking up steam as some sort of influencer's car. You know the way the i8 did. So because it looks like a
I didn't
supercar,
sell anything. I would have loved to become an influencer car.
huh?
The i8 didn't do well at all. It didn't become anything. It became a
Oh
flop.
no, secondhand. It was like every car influencer bought one because it was an easy way into a hypercar looking thing without actually paying hypercar money, right? And that's what the Emira, I think, has become to a certain extent. I've seen it in the UAE with certain influencers picking up Emiras, and they're clearly not interested in car. They'll like the cars. They'll paint them like baby pink or whatnot, and
Purple.
that's
I've
it.
seen
Look,
it.
I have
Yeah.
a supercar. Like I have a thoroughbred. Like it's a proper blue chip supercar manufacturer or like a sports car manufacturer. Lotus. It's just like Ferrari.
So before I think what I wanted to add now was that there is a lot to talk about, and it's actually going to be quite an
Yeah.
exciting episode. I think before this, I'd say is a good intro for the complete
Yeah.
topics we want to talk about. But maybe let's focus on one mode. Do you want to take us into one topic,
Yeah.
and
So I mean,
then we'll take us through the topics, and then we'll go into one specific? Go, please. Yeah.
let's just start with the topic, right? Because we kind of kicked off on it, and then as always, we went off on a tangent. But I think the conflict has created um, certain changes or shifts in the market in the Middle
There's
East,
been an
right?
impact. Yep.
Yeah. Number one, we saw that there were a lot of cars that arrived, for example, into certain ports and were not able to get to their final destination, which may have been onward somewhere else, right? Like I understand a lot of
So
cars
Middle
come.
East is hub. You mean right? Middle
Yeah,
East is hub.
they'll come to Middle East hubs, and then they will go to other parts of Asia, Africa, even parts of Europe or whatever from there. That wasn't apparently possible anymore at any affordable cost or anything like that. So instead, what happened is they got rerouted to other markets in the Middle East. I think, for example, there was a whole stock of like um, Chinese pickup trucks. I forget the brand that came into the Dubai ports, and I think they were looking for perhaps a distributor in Dubai, in Egypt, to pick them up to see if they could sell them off in the Egypt market instead of having to send them to their intended destination in Africa or Pakistan or wherever it was.
I believe
So
Egypt is in Africa, but yeah.
yeah, sorry, I meant like I guess Central and South
Central
lower.
Africa. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, let's
not
be honest, Egypt is a bit
yeah.
different, but yeah.
Yeah, there's the Middle East Africa split always like kills me, like geographically. I always make that mistake. My bad. Apologies, Africa.
So all the Egyptian, because I think you've got a few in the office, right?
Well, yeah, and a lot of friends. So yeah, so there's that, and the other thing with that is the other thing we've seen is that now you mentioned this was at the high end of the market, right? Is that I think Lamborghini Winkelmann actually is that how you pronounce his name? Anyway, has basically said that there are, and I don't know if this has changed since, but there are no Lamborghinis coming into the Middle East right now. Some of these showrooms look barren. By the way, I've driven by Aston Martin Abu Dhabi. I don't think there's a car in there. Um,
Well, I mean,
Lamborghini has.
even if you bring cars in, are people in the position now to drop this kind of liquidity on a car that you don't need? That's my point. That like, okay, fine, there might be a restriction, not restrictions. There might be difficulties in bringing the car in, but who on earth would actually decide to like lose that much liquidity on a car that you don't need? Which all of these cars at that end of the market are cars you don't necessarily need right now, right?
Well, I mean, to that point, I think Ferrari has said something different, right? They're like, we can't get cars over on ships. This market is valuable enough. We're going to airlift them. So
Mm.
Ferraris are coming in. But perhaps these are orders from like and this speaks to your point about the Middle East becoming an increasingly important market for luxury cars,
We didn't
relative to
mention
like
it in the recording. Actually, I think that's a good point. If I
oh
could,
yeah.
I'll make it quickly. Yeah. So, just before we spoke as well. Oh, sorry. Since we last spoke, the big news was obviously the trade war between America and China. That four manufacturers in the upper end, all the way from like I'd say Mercedes, Audi, BMW upwards. The biggest historical market's always been America. China had picked up in recent years. They then decided that that business model was no longer working since the market changes in China, and they were more often looking towards the Middle East to plug that hole in demand, especially for even higher end of the market, which was almost ironic as when you chase one thing, you go for the other one, and then this conflict kicks off and it affects the entire market. So that's just a quick version of it. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, I think Ferrari's decided to invest in that, and they're like, look, we're going to get cars over there no matter what. Lamborghini's taken the opposite approach. Perhaps that reflects the type of buyer, that, for example, well, I don't know. The Ferrari buyers may have had these orders backlogged or whatever, and those cars are going to come through regardless. Are they accepting new orders? We don't know.
It's
Um,
also
I'm
demand
not a Ferrari
elasticity.
buyer yet.
It's like
Huh?
Lamborghini are just not as elastic as Ferrari. Demand elasticity. A Ferrari clearly is now shown to be more of an elastic purchase. Even whatever happens, the price goes up. Market situations, or conflict. Maybe until they decide to nuke their own brand with an electric car, but we'll talk about that topic later. But yeah,
um,
if
but
it
yeah,
does, we don't know yet. But like there is now a reality that it could. Let's put it that way. But back to the topic. I don't want to get
yeah.
sidetracked
Well, I
now.
mean,
I do want to get
I
your
don't think
opinion though.
yeah, I don't think there's a lot left to say on this other than I think this has helped accelerate Chinese dominance of at least the UAE market, if not others. I don't have visibility as much. I haven't looked at recent sales figures unlike the last few times, but look,
Also,
um,
Chinese ships are being allowed through. I don't
yeah,
know the current situation, but if Chinese ships, I believe, are one of the few flagged carriers or however you put it, that are being allowed through the strait. So it's kind of almost a perfect scenario that um, the brand that the country whose manufacturers can benefit from the situation the most because of uncertainty, but people needing cars and offering a product that is at the right price for those people, being the only one that can get through.
yeah, and I mean, we've just seen a friend of ours. He's trading in his BMW. He needs a larger car, expanding family. He's bought the Jetour. I don't know what it's called, the big one.
Mm.
Uh,
Mo, am I recording? By the way, I'm worried that my sound's not coming through. Can you see my little thingy move?
yeah, of course.
I can't see mine. Okay, good. I'm glad you can.
That's fine. Yeah, it was giving me green check and everything. So,
Okay.
let me.
Sorry for the detour. Yeah.
It's from G700. Okay. He's bought one of those. He's got one of those on order, and I think it shows a few things. One is that like, and that thing is everywhere. The thing launched like 5 minutes ago, right? It launched in between you visiting here and you seeing like all the T2s in the universe, right? To now there's a larger Jetour. Jetour's basically defenderized their entire lineup, right? Like there's the mid-sized defender, there's a small defender, there's a large defender, right? And that's what defender wants to do, but Jetour's beating them to the punch.
Well, you know
Um,
how Defender is doing it. The Defender or like JLR is doing it through Cherry, which is a very funny development, being a Chinese
it's so
brand.
scary, yeah.
Yeah, so like to
No,
that point that
they're not doing it through that. That's
they are.
freelance. No, no.
Oh, fine, fine, fine. No, but what I'm
Yeah,
saying is that like
remember,
the
JLR is
yeah
now like some
house
kind
of
of,
brands.
yeah, house of brands, and Freelander and Defender are separate brands as opposed to separate products, which kind of is starting to make sense to me, but it's still strange considering how we grew up, right? Like it's a new world out there. But yeah, I think what we're seeing is that this Chinese market dominance that we were seeing in the Middle East is just only, and with that, I mean, you look at some of the consumer behavior. I was having there's like you remember we've spoken about Kevin Hackett before, ex automotive journalist based in the UAE. He recently left the country, and me and him were having a chat about. We were just catching up, and he's just like, what surprised him the most is the fact that I guess any brand like snobbery there was has gone out the window with Chinese cars. Like people,
But, yeah,
uh,
but there is a percentage. I like. I've spoken to a few OEMs about this as well. There is a percentage that like people can be snobby until the car is 30% more
yeah,
expensive. That's what I mean with like elasticity. There is like a
right.
snobbery effect on it, but if it's just 30% more expensive and it's not as good, yeah,
But they are very good, right? Like I just came from
yeah.
the gym. My gym is in a mall. They have a Jetour display there. The G700 is there. There's a giant sticker on the side that says it has something like 900 horsepower. This is I know it's a massive SUV that honestly, by the way, resembles the H2 or H3 Hummer more than it does the any of the Defenders, in my opinion. I saw one parked next to an H3 Hummer, and I'm like, wow, this looks like a large H3 Hummer. Is that era of SUV design back?
I
Anyway,
guess it's just a caricature, right?
yeah, but anyway, it's there and it's got like 900 something horsepower, which our friend who was buying it didn't even know when he test drove it. He's just like, oh, and we can talk about horsepower and lightweight and feel and tread shuffle all we want, like in as automotive enthusiasts, but as an automotive enthusiast, if you're looking for a daily driver, it's hard to say no to a 140,000 dirham car with like, or is it 180? I can't remember, but a 180,000 dirham car with nearly 1,000 horsepower. That's insane.
And depreciation doesn't matter if you spend 180 on it.
I don't even.
If like hmm?
I don't know if depreciation is even an issue for Jetour.
Wow. Because that for me still feels like the other end of the equation. But right, because it
It's
goes
become mainstream. They are basically like Toyota. I don't know. I would need to check what they're selling for secondhand, but I'm sure you can find a ready buyer.
the other thing I keep hearing about these cars is they're also very efficient. And the thing from this conflict, the other big impact broadly was oil prices. Oil prices is something I'm feeling here at the pump, and I know in America it's even more so, and in the Far East it's even more so. And again, like, sorry, not again, but the Middle East has been a place where fuel prices never really mattered, but people still feel an increase.
You
And
feel it, dude. I mean,
yeah,
like I'll
exactly.
tell you firsthand, right? Like I went from having a four-cylinder Mazda to having the four-cylinder Mazda, but also having two V8s in my garage, and I do not enjoy filling them up.
Yeah.
It's a very different price. I mean, the Mazda is more expensive, but it sips so efficiently, right? Like who cares? But those cars, like I need to fill them up regularly if I use them regularly.
But these Chinese cars are mostly hybrid or fully electric. And being hybrid and electric, they are very fuel efficient. And I feel like one of the long term, if we want to think long term about the effects that this will have, I feel like efficiency and the push into more new the Chinese call it NEV, right? New energy vehicles will be the longer term impact. We're going to see a lot more people convert into fully electric vehicles or convert into these more interesting hybrids of like the big thing I keep hearing about is not good for us enthusiasts, but the engine as generator. I believe that the Honda has it, but a lot of these Chinese manufacturers have these
I,
engines that are not even connected to the front wheels. They're just generators, but they're really,
I
really
mean, well,
efficient.
Harry Metcalf did an amazing review of the JQ J7, which is the number one selling car in the UK, apparently. And I've
Mhm.
seen them growing in popularity here, which, like the Jetour, is another Cherry product, right? It seems like Cherry is just going into each market and like it's just kind of launching a sub brand that appeals to that market and then basically going nuts with it, right? And then they'll just reconfigure the products that they need as they need them. And but I'm also seeing the JQ. I've seen quite a few of them in the last few days. I feel like that's something that's picking up here. The JA7 or whatever it's called, um, kind of the midsize, though the one that's doing well in the UK. And he talked about it as engine as generator. He couldn't quite understand the tech behind it, but he said it was brilliant. He thought it was fantastic engineering. Really liked it, and he's just like the price point was perfect for that car. And then I think there was the point where he said it has suspension, as in like that's it. Don't
Yeah.
expect anything more from it. And then your response to that when we were discussing it on the chat a few days ago was the rise of the good enough.
Mm. Yeah.
And I think
And
you
what's
know
funny is that it's if I could add something to that, I feel like good enough versus brand snobbery. Because I feel like the disappointment I have in Europe is that this idea has been around for a long time. The BMW i3 was an electric car with a petrol engine like generator in it. It has
yeah,
been around. Yeah, like this idea has been around for a while, but they decided no, we're not going to develop any further because we can just rely on brand. And I hate that. And I've had actual I'd say arguments, but not heated arguments, but arguments with a lot of colleagues here, especially because we work in brand and marketing, to say I really hate brand because I feel like it becomes a crux. It allows brands to become lazy, and I feel like so many of them here have decided to not invest in new products and development and stuff like this, for example, new technology. Then and rather than that, just decide to ride on their brand, and they're just riding into their own graves. Like
I think
like
I'm gonna add,
the brand snobbery disappeared so quickly.
I think yeah, I think I'm going to add a few things to that. So just bear with me here. I think we can close off I guess, the Middle East topic here on that note. I think the brand snobbery, the fact that these cars are coming in significantly cheaper, the fact that they are available more readily, I think has just helped, I guess, pour rocket fuel into their growth here, which is good. I think to your point about brand and product in Europe is that I was listening. There's a couple different sources I listened to. I think which summarize this quite nicely. Is one was the intercooler. Andrew Frankel just said how brilliant the Renault 5 is and how well it's
Mm.
doing, and he's like, you can look to a car like that and be like, if you are genuinely worried for any reason that, oh, like, I mean, let's forget the worried part. Let's talk about the fact that all these old school manufacturers, the Europeans, the Japanese, the whatever, are sitting there going, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? And I think Renault has very clearly shown, well, make better product. It's
Mhm.
product. And
Yes,
I think Renault has shown that, and I think hopefully it sounds like Jaguar interestingly is going to show that as well. The initial drives of that prototype look very very interesting, and we'll get
but
to
at a
that when we
price.
talk about the Luce. But
Yeah,
uh-huh.
yeah, but to that point, I want to add, but like at a price, and the Chinese are just delivering as good products at such cheaper prices.
But the Renault 5 is doing it at the right price, and you've got the
Yeah, but the
Twingo
Jaguar is going to be more than
probably
a
going to get
hundred
great
thousand.
success. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Um,
Jaguar is more than 100,000. Sorry, I know we're on a closed topic. Yep.
yeah, but then I think the other thing is, there was a piece in The Economist, I think a month or 2 months ago or something, which they were talking about Europe kind of their key competitive advantage at this point is heritage. It's old stories, and I think that's there. they're capitalizing on the world's demand or the want for those things, right? And that's where luxury products come in to a certain extent, is that they've got those heritage and those old stories and whatever. And certain brands continue to do well, to do strong. We've seen that.
For now.
Yeah, for now.
Because
Or no, there's ones that have picked up, right? Like Chanel has capitalized on their, I guess, heritage positioning,
yeah,
and
but sorry, but fashion doesn't have any degree of technological development that the car industry does. It just doesn't. People aren't dying for a new kind of leather. There isn't like technology isn't as big of a factor in.
but there is a quality, longevity, aesthetic point to that, right? And if you can, and there are plenty of people that are willing, including traditional luxury buyers. This is what I remember reading in that piece, was that there is, like you said, there is a percentage. There is a point where the pricing, if the pricing is just right, people are willing to throw away brand. They're willing to throw away story, and that goes
Or
across.
or get a dupe, or get
Yeah,
the duplicate, which the JQ is. It's a dupe. It's basically the rise of the dupe car. They've been doing it in handbags. They've been
JQ
doing like, hey, we've been
with the JQ.
the Harry Metcalf car. That's a dupe
Oh
Range
yeah,
Rover.
it's JQ.
Yeah,
Is it?
it's basically like it's a dupe Range Rover.
It is and it isn't, but I've seen. I literally just saw one, and he says it isn't. It isn't as well. It's a dupe in the way that the you remember the Ferrari 456, my favorite Ferrari, of course.
Mm.
And there is the second generation Hyundai Coupe or the Tiburon. Yeah,
It's very
remember
different price point. This is
when
very different.
when that car came out, it was considered a very, very low end dupe of the 456, to the extent that Hyundai in the UK even ran an ad campaign with both cars in the picture saying something along the lines of, at night you might confuse the two, in the dark you might confuse the two, or something, right? Yeah.
All right.
I think the JQ J7 is unique enough. Like you're not, no one's going to think you're driving a Range Rover, but it has a hint of that aesthetic, and it looks nice as a result. It's smart, it's a handsome looking thing. But I think that brings us, talking about luxury and brand and heritage, brings us neatly to the Ferrari Luce, which apparently you cannot produce a podcast in June of 2026 without talking about.
I think because we all want to. That's the really funny thing. Like,
Oh man, so bad, so badly. I've been waiting for this moment.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
ready, but but why don't you
I have.
start?
Yeah, okay. Actually, I'll start with one simple point.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is a question I've asked actually. Okay, so as you know, I work closely with Porsche. I actually saw the guys just a few, like I think a day after the card launch. I was in Stuttgart, and I had one question, and I have one image to show you. So the one question is, what is the image or signal that this car will give off to other people on the road? Because I think that the most important thing to understand is that yes, enthusiasts are not the largest proportion of buyers. Absolutely. However, these products, these luxury cars, are meant to be bought as status symbols. That's also very true. Okay, fine. That's the argument. And we're not going to talk about the fact it's not got an engine or it's not like a real Ferrari, blah, blah, blah. What is the status symbol that this is giving off to the world? And the reason I think that's important is because even if this isn't made for enthusiasts, enthusiasts still are a foundational block of the status symbol that this is. That you need them as a, like in watches, for example, they don't buy the, like, watch enthusiasts, real watch enthusiasts don't buy the majority of watches, but they do build the reputation that the market is built on. And like that's my point. What is this like? I can't believe that a wealthy person driving around in this car will give off a good positive signal. And number two, this is one of my favorite pictures. This is the Ferrari Luce without any cladding. So this is the actual car itself. Now, if you imagine what a Ferrari looks like, and you park all alongside, and this is the signal you're giving off, like um, uh, sex appeal, danger. This is none of those things.
I mean, it looks
This is the
better.
Ferrari
Yeah,
Luce. That's the Ferrari Luce.
I could get over behind those wheels, but that's a different point. Anyway, Yeah.
Yeah, fine. I like those wheels too, but
I hate those wheels, but anyway.
this is not something that I feel like is lust worthy, both for the buyer and the eyes which you want to get with this car. So I think it's going to be a disaster. But again, it comes back to this idea of what do they want to do with it. Do they want to prove that they can make something? Yeah, sure, but they haven't even made anything that good. To be honest, technologically speaking, I don't think it's that. It doesn't push. You've got Teslas that have been around for 10 years that have got the same amount of power. A Ferrari was always meant to be the fastest car since Luca di Montezemolo. He always said every single time we launch a Ferrari, it must be the fastest. Fine, he's not there anymore, but this is not the fastest. Okay, maybe it's going to drive really well, but is anyone who wants to is any driving enthusiast actually going to buy this car? I just think it's a confused mess of a business plan that was made 7 years ago when the world was expected to be very different. But I've talked a lot now. What are your thoughts?
Well, that went very differently than what I was expecting because I think there was a brief moment where you actually told me you liked it.
I
Um,
don't hate it. It's just
no,
I just
I
don't think
mean,
it's
it's
a
fair.
car.
I'm
I
not.
think it's a bad
I
product.
disagree. Yeah. So I think there's a few things to unpack here, right? I think number one, there is remember, you always learn that thing like marketing school about like the early adopters and I guess the
Yeah, yeah,
people
the
that pick
curve.
it later, and then yeah, and then it's the mainstream or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think what you're saying with the enthusiast part of this is that this car has no clout with what would have been an early adopter. Nobody is going to like. I cannot
No,
see.
no, no. I disagree because I think that. Sorry, I know that I've been talking, but I want to add something to your point. I mentioned this on Instagram, and I really believe this is true. I believe this is the Peter Thiel supercar, right? This is the tech billionaire overlord. It's the Elon Musk supercar. It's all of those Silicon Valley people who are not car enthusiasts but want to like signal to the world that they've just sold the 10% of whatever company they were working and have made an incredible amount of
But
money, but don't like cars. This is the car for them.
counterpoint to that, right? Um, to my understanding, the only successful luxury EV or ultra luxury EV has been to date the Spectre,
Yes, because
and
it's a very good Rolls Royce.
it is beautiful, and EV actually fits
Yeah.
perfectly into Rolls Royce's brand identity. Silent, powerful, whatever. It fits the brand. So it was easy to not just sell it to these like tech bros or whatever or new audiences. It was also easy to sell it to existing audiences. And I think this is my problem is that existing audiences or the hardcore or are the early adopters usually, and they are the ones that drive preference for this type of vehicle, right? If they think it's a shit show, it's going to get laughed at everywhere it goes.
Yes.
And even your Peter Thiel's, remember when Elon did not invent the EV with Tesla, right? What he said is we made the EV cool. That's why the Model S had Plaid mode. That's why the Model X had the gull wing or whatever they called them doors. I
Yes.
can't believe I did the hand
This isn't
gesture.
cool.
Um, and you remember that show? What is it, Silicon Valley or whatever it was, where they
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that famous line about millionaire doors or billionaire doors or
Millionaire.
whatever?
It's millionaire doors and billionaire doors. They don't do this. They don't do this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. This is not it. This is a car that
Yes.
I, quite frankly, as much as I want to love it, because people have likened it to the Multipla, which I actually really like. But this is a car you're going to get laughed at in. So
Yeah.
it doesn't even fit the tech bro thing. Tech bros are going to go buy the next cool. Honestly, I see them in the new Jaguar. As much as the audience made fun of the marketing campaign, no one is laughing at the car.
Well, I mean, Peter Thiel is a bad guy, and if it's good to be bad, the Jaguar's a perfect car for the villain that he clearly is.
Well, remember, I've been playing the new James Bond video game, which is excellent, by the way. It's probably the best Bond film that's never existed.
Mm.
But they had the Type 00 concept or Type 00 in the
Is it
game.
Type One or Types?
The production car is going to be called the Type 1, but the concept was called the Type 00 or Type
Okay,
0.
sure, sure.
Yeah. So anyway, they had it in the game in the bad guy's lair. It was just a throwaway placement. Like it was literally product placement. But even in like 99% of the bad guys have driven Jaguars. I think there's only yeah, but it almost feels like they're going back to that positioning. But that's a tangent. I think the my problem with the Luce being a success is that even for the target market that everyone thinks it's for, those people don't want to get laughed at. They want to be taken
That's
serious.
it. But
That's
but but
not
my
cool. It's not cool. And people are throwing a lot of shade at Johnny Ive and Mark Newson about being contracted to design this car or whatever, or saying that they don't understand automotive design and stuff like that. I mean, I really don't think that's the case. I think this is what actually happened, right? And I think was it Matt Pryor from Autocar did a really nice column on this. I think both of us have
Mhm.
discussed it offline.
Yep.
And he basically said that when he saw different models of that car, like different like
Variations or
style
whatever.
models and stuff
Yeah.
like that, yeah, variations of it, there are ones that were genuinely beautiful. But unfortunately, what happened is I think the engineering and the hard points for that car were done before it went into styling. That was a salvage job. It went to those designers because I don't think Pininfarina, I don't think Ferrari's in-house team had a clue.
It had
Yeah,
to look like that.
had a clue what was going on with that car. It had to be a certain shape, and I think they were basically stuck with applying lipstick on a pig. And I think so. I think it's unfair to kind of throw them under the bus. I think what he also
Well, they're
did
massive
say is,
car enthusiasts, right? They are, by the way, interesting thing.
yeah.
They have a massive classic Ferrari collection. So let's not pretend like they don't appreciate what a Ferrari is meant to look like.
Oh, I remember Johnny Ive at some point, back when he was like at his like Apple zenith, right? Like when he was just like the coolest person on earth, designing all the cool Apple products and whatnot. People asked him what he drove, what he thought was the coolest looking car, and he's like, "I drive the coolest looking car on earth." He said Aston Martin DBS.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean that is that. Remember that was the
You know
car
what's
that was
funny?
constantly cool out Top Gear Cool Wall. That thing had its own fridge.
Yeah. Here's a
So
funny thing. Life, the older I get, the more I realize that life is just pure irony. And I feel like it's a cruel joke that who, like, the man, Johnny Ives, who was always seen as a product designer, the greatest product designer in modern history, finally gets the chance to design for the greatest car brand in the world. And he has to design this. And he ends up like it's a grand irony. Do you know what I mean? Like you work so hard, you prove yourself, you want to move into this thing, and the one that you get, the Ferrari that you get to put your fingerprints on, is this one.
yeah, it really sucks. And a few people have said, "Oh, just wait to see how it performs." I will give it that. I do think I think the one
Who
saving grace for
cares?
this I think the one saving grace for this car is that when you drive it, it will drive like nothing else we've ever seen before. If it can
But then
do that,
only people, but like to your point, only tread shufflers, as we like to call them, will be the ones who appreciate it. And I really don't think that they're going to say the driving experience will be so much better than the sound that they've lost. So the only person that aspect will appeal to is the one who will never, ever, ever, ever consider. If you have to go electric, then fine. Yeah.
the sound loss thing actually reminds me of where I think, because I'm like I've said it several times, right? Like I am a huge I like EVs. I like where this is going. I just feel that very few people have gotten it right, and it's a shame that Ferrari didn't. When I say gotten it right, I mean gotten it right from an enthusiast perspective, right?
I think they have
Um,
got it right. I like the idea of the guitar amplifier, right? That's what they've said. They said like it's like
that's
an
not what.
electric guitar. Okay, sorry, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let me. So the thing is, we talked about the Alpine A was it the A110?
Mhm.
I forget the numbers now. The mid-engined car, the mid-engine sports car that everyone gave a 5-star rating to, despite not having a manual, just because it drives so fucking well, right? Well, the thing about that thing is the thing about that thing, very articulate. But the thing about that car is it doesn't sound good, does it? It's not
No,
an inspiring
no.
engine note. Same with the Toyota GT86 or GR86 or whatever. And I think there is a place for a lightweight, well engineered, fun to drive enthusiast EV. And it feels like the only person that's trying to build that is that company out in China with it's called the SC
And the
01.
longbow in the UK. To be fair to the UK,
Oh,
the
right.
longbow.
But nobody's driven the longbow, right? Like people have driven and ordered the Chinese car, which is now, by the way, Xiaomi is now backing.
Yeah, 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 I
Um,
heard.
so
But
it's
to
only
your point,
getting
Mo,
better.
to performance EVs, right? I'm very lucky to have a little bit of a simulator rig here, and in it, there's been a lot of new games or whatever you want to call them, platforms that have introduced electric cars. Every single time I've driven an electric car in that, especially with the sensation being removed, you don't move around. I feel sick. I feel sick. I feel sick, like motion sickness when I'm understanding I'm moving and I'm being simulated moving with no sound at all. I get very, ooh,
Yeah, I mean, okay, like I will. There's a point I want to make on because I've actually test driven a very good Chinese EV, and I want to talk about that. We can get into that. It's a nice
should
jumping
we
off
wrap
point.
up the
But
Luce then?
yeah, but
Yeah.
I think on the Luce, I think this is what it needed to be was something as beautiful as something like a Ferrari 550 Maranello. It needed to be a lightweight, highly
Why couldn't it have
engaging.
been beautiful? Like lose a bit of range and make it beautiful, make it lust worthy.
It doesn't have great range. That's the thing, right? Like it's not either
No,
or, right? It's I think it should have been either or. Either it should have been absolutely stunning and like shown the world the future for the performance sports car like only Ferrari could have done. The EV performance sports car that only Ferrari could have done because I think most mainstream car manufacturers have missed on this. They have not nailed down the I think that Chinese company and maybe Longbow are the only people that seem to be driving in the right direction with this. The Lotus
oh,
Evija,
BMW
no,
is talking about interesting stuff. To be fair to BMW,
BMW is doing well with EVs. I think they have provided with that new iX3 or whatever it is, they've provided a credible response from Europe to the Chinese, not just in terms of range and stuff, with actual technology and actual engineering. It's BMW doing what they do best. I think hats off to whoever's running BMW's electric program. Um, but um, but yeah, I think that's the issue with the Luce. I think it needed to either be that or it needed to provide technology and performance, even if it looked the way does. It needed to provide technology, performance, and driving experience that only Ferrari could have done. The technology and performance does not seem to be there. The driving experience, we'll see.
I have not seen the light or the Luce, but I think leap forward, the great leap forward have come from the Chinese supercars that are able to jump. Like it's actually funny that like the Chinese have built the electric Ferrari that
Well,
leaps forward and does fun things. And luce means light in Italian, but it doesn't mean light as in weight. It means light as in illumination. And I just feel like it's a dark spot in their history. I feel like they're lost and they made the wrong decision.
the and that I think brings me. Do you want to add anything else about the Luce, or I can move on to the
Let's move on. I don't think we
ET5
need to talk about that
experience?
thing anymore. No one else will. Oh,
And
no,
so I
sorry.
think
Last thing, actually. Wait. Actually, do like yeah. Last thing. I asked my colleagues in the office as well, who work on the global brand, what they feel, and one of them made an interesting point. He said, "There's so much money at the moment that if you're a wealthy person and like the price, which is incredibly high, doesn't really matter to you because you're like Elon Musk, who's going to be the world's first trillionaire. That's a thing to consider. Um, you just go, yeah. Why not? I'll give it a go." I don't know if that's in a market, but but not enough of a market. But I could see a lot of people just saying, "Yeah, buy it, whatever. Let's just give it a go."
Musk, for all his faults, would never have let the Luce happen. This is a guy that owned a McLaren F1. This is the guy that said EVs need to be cool with his entire range. He literally called the range sexy. Like he knows something about showmanship. Um,
Yeah, he's
you
the
know,
world's greatest showman. It's absolutely, and I feel like they've really messed up the show.
yeah, the Luce does not show. But on the topic of EVs that actually drive well, I drove a Nio ET5, which, if you read the European reviews for, people are like, wow, okay, this thing actually drives and handles well, or whatever. So that is their EV sports sedan. I think it would be roughly equivalent to you and I went to the Nio house together in Abu Dhabi to take a
Mm,
look. A few days later, I did a test drive of it.
mm.
And it's roughly equivalent to a Tesla Model 3 sedan, compact. Very good looking car, minus the lidar sensors or whatever, which always make you look like you're driving a cab. But very, very solidly put together. The interior is actually gorgeous in places. Like some of the detailing, like some of the coloring stuff they've used is just very, very impressive, right? Overall. And then so I got behind the wheel of one. And first of all, it is insanely fast, as you would expect. And what I found really interesting is that, I think with what we're hearing increasingly about the Chinese is they're not able to nail down the final like 5% of the car, right? The chassis tuning, the damping, the stuff like that. Um, and the Neo nails it, dude. The steering feel, body control, like everything. It feels like somebody that likes driving to dial this car in. It handles well. It's look. I'm not going to say this is a competitor to, like, I don't know, an M3 or anything, because it has that kind of performance. But does it compete with a 3 Series? Absolutely, yes. And that has been the gold standard for, like, I guess, the mainstream enthusiast driving car for a long time, and continues to be, I think. It's there. It's on that level, in my opinion, and I think that's very interesting. That I think I missed nothing from a petrol car driving that, and in fact I feel I gained a lot by having an EV just because it was so much faster.
Yeah, but I feel like that's a good point of I wanted to make as well is that can there be a not performance, a enthusiast electric car? You weren't seeking anything from mobility appliance. You can get stuff that's there and it's nice to have and the tuning and whatnot, but like at the end of the day, it's meant to like I was saying earlier, good enough is good enough. And like Harry said as well, it's got suspension, it's fine. You found something, that extra 10% which you were looking for as well, but it doesn't really matter because the market's already bought them. Um, I guess my response to you, Mo, is that this is all well and good, and I completely agree with you. But does that also mean that there is no future for enthusiast cars that are fully electric? I don't think so at the moment.
Wait, doesn't this? I'm sorry, like I'm confused here. Actually, is doesn't this show that there is a future for an electric enthusiast car?
I don't think so. I feel like, yeah, it can entertain somewhat, but I don't think an electric car will ever make you wake up in the morning and want to go for a spirited drive. I don't know. I don't think
Why?
so.
Okay, let's unpack that. Actually, I'm very
Yeah,
curious as
yeah.
to why. Because I keep hearing this, and I feel like this just feels like a some of the loudest voices on social media have said this, so everyone's kind of bought into it, right? Like it feels like one of those things where I don't necessarily agree. I've always held the opinion that I think the enthusiast electric car, the fully enthusiast electric car, perhaps doesn't exist yet, but it can happen. And that was my point with the Alpine A110, right? Is that it's not the powertrain that's brilliant there. So why not just bin it and put an EV powertrain in there? What's the difference? As long as it's lightweight, it's responsive, the feel is right, it looks good. I think that's it. That's all you need.
I feel like I disagree because a better enthusiast car has already been made. It's the cars that have been made. Would you buy, for example, an electric Boxster if real Boxster, if a non-electric Boxster already exists and is cheaper? Like, is there going to be demand for that kind of car unless it's completely outlawed? Will
But
any person?
that's like the technology disruption, like line graph, right? Eventually the electric version is going to be cheaper.
That's fine, but even if it's not cheaper, right? Even if it's not cheaper, don't who on I don't think an enthusiast will ever choose an electric car,
I would.
whatever it is, over a second-hand equivalent of the same product.
I would. I would. I
You
was excited. I was genuinely excited about the Boxster Cayman going electric. I thought it was very interesting. I wanted to see what Porsches can do that. I find it disappointing that it's not happening anymore, because I'm in equal parts excited. I'm a futurist, right? I enjoy we
optimist,
there's
yeah.
that whole unreleased podcast that we once did about the future of automotive and blah blah blah. I do think I find EV propulsion and technology exciting. I find it interesting. I find it's so I think it's actually a better solution than a series of mini explosions,
For an
Um,
enthusiast or for a mobility.
I for me, enthusiast has never been about the powertrain, says the guy with two V8s. Uh, but I could live without the noise. It doesn't matter, dude. Like I think it's actually it comes down to the handling and the feel and the way the cars look and stuff and the way they make you feel. And I get that a lot of people tie that to manual gearboxes and they tie that to, but I mean, Hyundai's already shown us that we can still have the manual gearbox simulated, right? Well,
That's not exactly flying off the shelves. But like
but
I
it can be
to that
done.
point
It can be
actually
done. I think there's a
can be
perception. I
done.
think
Yeah, I get it. But like that to that point, like just because it can be done doesn't mean it should be done. And I think that's a
I,
very good example of like lots of people ask if it could be done. No one asks if it should be done. I is any enthusiast ever actually going to select the electric version unless they have to over like I don't see any electric Hyundai. I've seen one i5N or whatever, but I see a hell of a lot of i20s and i30Ns, a hell of a lot. And I feel like if I'm in the market to buy a car, I'll rather buy one of those than the other one while I still can.
I will tell you what, I would absolutely trade in the XKR and the S6 for the this Chinese SC 01 or the Longbow that's coming. Those are cars
I
that interest
completely disagree with you, and I know I know I'm not you, but I can give my opinion.
me.
The way that Jaguar made you feel when you first had it, it probably still makes you feel now. The way it looks, what it evokes within you, that is something that this car cannot do. You remember when you drove that car and you saw the people looking at you, back to the Luce thing of like, wow, I'm in something special, something that like the world appreciates. It's not showing off, but like the world appreciates this thing going, look at that, and kids seeing it, whatever. It makes you happy. Back to what we were saying with the Honda.
This
Yeah,
is
same thing with me.
this is a discussion I'm gonna have offline with you because there is something to unpack here, and I don't want to like publicly put this out there, but yeah, look, I don't disagree with you, but I look, I think it's interesting, and I think those are cars that appeal to me. If somebody can build me the electric Elise, I want it.
But would you have it over a normal one?
Yeah, I would. I would. The Elise had a 1.8 liter K series Rover K series engine, the Mark One, which is
That revs at
arguably the
8,000 RPM, and then like like sorry, but
I,
I have a car that revs 8,000 and it's got a manual gearbox, and I can tell you it is. I since we've been speaking as well, I managed to get the Honda on the road. It's going to get converted to Austrian spec now, and I got to drive Austria's greatest driving road. I did a drive up, and I said to you, it was transcendental. It was like braking, shifting, the full. I was engaged because it was lightweight. It was manual. It had fantastic feel in the steering. I was transfixed. That made me want to wake up at 5 a.m. and do that drive again.
well, I mean, I'm
Uh,
going to do that in the coming days, but
yeah, good, good.
I
It's unfortunate you don't have a manual car to do it, but I still think even with the automatic that's in the Jaguar that does all the little J
I'm not.
shifting nonsense.
So for the record, I'm not going to use the Jag. There's a reason for that, but
Oh.
anyway, yeah, I'm going to take the Audi, but I guess that brings us neatly to, I think we can, we're coming up on an hour, and we still want to talk about our own personal car stuff. We've started getting into it a little bit, and I think we should expand on that. But I think we need to come back and have the debate more fully about the EV thing. I think maybe like structure our, because I wasn't expecting to get into that with you today. It just came to
Mm.
an interesting point. Um, let's
It's definitely
structure our
something to
thoughts
mind
around that and have an episode for that. Um, I think that would
for
be
and
good.
against. Yeah.
Yeah, for and against, because I do believe strongly that I think we're seeing a shift in technology and um, the way fundamentally we've seen automotive for a long time, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And I think we can still enjoy the things that we loved, and I think
Yeah,
cars will
enjoy
continue.
the things that we love that still exist. I think while second-hand cars are still on the
I'm not a big
road,
believer in this everyone going backwards. I think this is two steps back to move one step forward. I think this is a short term response to a market demand.
Johnny Ives is a retro designer now. The iPod is 20 years old. It is retro design. Johnny Ives has only really designed stuff that is retro. And Ferrari hiring a retro designer, I feel like is very interesting. It also designed a retro interior too. I feel like the problem with that Ferrari is it wasn't futuristic enough. It was far too retro. And all the little touches and stuff. Johnny Ives is a retro designer that's now
I get
famous for stuff he
he's
designed in the past. And he
every
designed an old, yeah, sorry, go on.
and everything he designed was based on Dieter Rams' design. The
Sure,
iPod,
which was also retro.
everything from the iPhone calculator to the iPod sound box or whatever it was, all these different things were based on old designs that were done
Braun.
by for Braun by Dieter Rams, who's considered one of the greatest industrial or product designers ever. Johnny Ive was literally following in his footsteps, you know. So, I mean, fair
Let's find
play.
out. Dieter Rams is still around, isn't he?
Yeah.
What does he think of the Luce?
I don't think you know what. I want to read the Julian Thompson piece in the intercooler that Dan Prosser kept talking about because
I
he
did.
taught.
It was okay.
Okay, he had apparently there was a list of people that have tried designing cars before that were
Yeah.
not car designers. Wait, isn't the Ineos Grenadier bringing back my favorite car of all time? Designed by like a guy that designed Spoats or something.
Well, I mean, they didn't design it. They just took a Defender and like, please anonymize this car so we don't get sued. They wouldn't design.
Oh man, that thing. You know what? As much as I've hated on that car during this entire podcast, I like
Yeah.
it now. I
Yeah.
fucking like it. Yeah. I like it. I don't like the quartermaster. I don't like the pickup because it's useless, but I do like the regular one. Anyway, um, our life in cars. It has been a journey. It has probably been very emotional. I was involved too, so I feel emotional about it as well. Your Honda NSX or Acura NSX, sorry, is on the road.
It is on the road now. It is semi on the road. It needs to be. It is on the road in Germany. It needs to be converted to be on the road in Austria as a classic car, which is another issue. Is going to have to pay for. I think the big news I've not told you yet, though, is that the Toyota might have to go.
Wait, why? Wait,
Yeah,
should
how's
we
that
have
for
this
news? I dropped it
conversation
on the
after
podcast.
the podcast, or you want
What?
to talk about it now or after the podcast?
Oh, exactly. Like I know it's a bit of an earthshake. So this is a car I've owned for I think roughly 13 years. It was the first and now only brand new car I've ever bought. I have every intention of keeping it, but due to regulation changes, I may not be able to keep it. Austria has a specific emissions tax that even if I have emissions data for it, it's going to cost thousands of euros, a lot of money to try and get this car registered on the road here, and it just might not be worth it. And it really breaks my heart because I really like. I drove that car here. I've been driving it a lot. I'm going to drive it to Le Mans next week. I'm driving that car to Le Mans from Austria. Um, I don't think there's another car that does everything exactly that I need to. It's fast enough. It's fun enough. It's all these different things. But I may have to sell my little Toyota, and I still haven't. I'm in the the 5 stages of whatever you call it. Like it's funny that life gives and life takes away. That the moment the Honda got done, like I said, with the grand irony of life, it's the Toyota that's been my little friend for so long. It's a part of me might have to go.
Well, I mean, that's well, I mean, remember how you got the Toyota in the first place? You drove mine. I
Yeah,
had one.
your fault. Yeah, I drove a Boxster and a your car, and I said I liked yours more.
Yeah. Well, that is news. I am. We'll have
Bit
to
of a
talk
bombshell,
about.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess less dramatic on my side. You've got the NSX on the road. I guess the 86 is coming off the road. I bought a heavily modified 2000 Jaguar XKR coupe.
Uh, Heavily modified makes it sound like it's like a me kind of car. I'd say it's an OEM plus. It's been fettled, and there's bits and pieces if you know. But if any,
It's
I don't think
supercharger,
anyone.
intercooler, the exhaust, the brakes, the
No, 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 no.
suspension.
I completely agree
What
with you.
is
But
not
if I,
stock on my car?
no, no, that's fine. But I think that the look is stock. It still looks fairly OEM plus.
Yeah, okay. Appearance wise, it's very OEM plus, but this is now a 4 liter that's putting out roughly the same numbers as the 4.2 liter that came a couple years later. It's British racing green, correctly. It's got the oyster colored Paris wheels. If you're a Jaguar enthusiast, you'll know what that means. Um, and it does not drive like a Grand Tourer anymore because of the suspension mods. And I am trying desperately to get Swallows Racing to respond to me to see if I can get this manual converted. But that'll cost a lot. But I want to do it. And in the
Manual
meantime,
conversion of Jaguar because you want, as an enthusiast, you want what? Experience.
yeah, because I've got the like it just I think that's a car that makes sense as a manual. I think the Jaguar XKR should
Because
always
it's an
have been had a
enthusiast car.
manual option.
I don't think I think very few enthusiast cars are better as um, fully automatics, not even like a flappy paddle or whatever.
It's
Um,
not a flappy paddle. It's a
no, I get
torque
it. I get it. That's
converter.
my point.
It's
I'd
a
say some.
four-speed Mercedes automatic.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to add like some specificity. I'm trying to say that I don't believe there is a single enthusiast car that would not be better as a manual or semi-automatic than as an automatic. I think all of them will be better as a manual or semi-automatic.
And then I also picked up a 2016 Audi S6. So this is a C7.5 generation,
How much
completely
poke?
stock, 450 horsepower. It is insane. That thing it accelerates like an EV. And it would have to be insane to get into like to find the limits of that car on a public road. I cannot understand like the Quattro plus the way the engine is. It's just it's the breadth of its abilities are insane. You cannot. I have won every traffic light street race. I have not tried. I just actually that's just how fast it is. I can't. Like a quarter throttle will launch you into next week.
And that's a now 10-year-old car.
Yeah, and it's not even the RS. It's just the S6. I mean, who the fuck bought the RS6?
What's even funnier was that, like, do we not think cars are a bit too fast now? I know we've been saying it for
Yeah,
years, but
I
like,
was actually thinking about that earlier. I was like, this was the peak or the sub peak, I guess,
yeah, close enough, whatever. Yeah.
of the German like horsepower wars, right? Like BMW and Audi went into the V10s, Mercedes went ballistic with the 6.3 liter AMGs, and then they kind of this is still V8 twin turbo. This is before they came down to the V6s. But there was a point where the Germans decided this is too much. We need to stop and started like rolling things back a little, right? And now you've got EV cars and this Jetour SUV family SUV's got like 1,000 horsepower, and you're like, well, fuck that. So yeah, and on that bombshell,
And yeah, there's a lot to discuss on that bombshell. This has been really fun. We should do it more often. Let's try not to do them once every half year, but very much enjoyed catching up. And I think that if I could add a final note, and I'll let you do, I'd invite you, obviously, Mo, to do it as well. I'm very excited to see what the future looks like because who knows. And to be honest, like apart from my situation with my emissions, and I'm in a bit of a weird situation because of moving countries and whatnot, these enthusiast cars are not disappearing. And I feel like there's two perspectives we have on this podcast. There are two people who have worked in and around the car market for a while, and there are two enthusiasts as well. And I feel like from both perspectives, things have never looked more interesting because the old cars, the ones we do like, the ones you now own, you've got two of them, aren't going away. They are still on the road, and you can still buy them. You did. And the new cars are moving in. Finally, move. I think the Japanese, the Chinese have finally kicked them in the ass hard enough to make them go in an interesting direction. I'm very interested and excited to see what happens next.
cool. I guess my closing note is we didn't talk about the Audi Nuvolari, which I think is hilarious as a concept, but
It's stunning.
good.
Huh?
I told you my opinion about this. I love
No.
it, but okay, we're gonna close with this.
Okay.
They
One sentence.
the
Yeah.
Audi R8 for 2 generations was a regular production car. They decided that fuck, you know what? We can't make the volumes add up anymore. So let's just turn it into a limited production car. The Nuvolari is an R8. It is based off the Temerario platform, just like every previous R8.
My background at the moment is motorsport. I'm a bit more heavily involved in motorsport, and one reason I heard about this being created was to allow Audi to go back to GT racing, because now the Formula One team is up and running and it's blah blah blah. They want to consider the value of going back to GT racing, and this would make a fantastic platform for a GT car.
It sounds
So
like
I
a
feel like,
cash grab. They're like
oh,
somebody's like,
absolutely, that's fine. But like, listen, nothing's ever one thing; it's many things. And I feel like one of the reasons it probably it has been greenlit is because also you can make money and blah blah blah, but it becomes the base of a GT car.
it
I can't
is.
wait to see the racing version.
This should have been the third generation R8. I don't know why they've done this. We're only going to
It
make
is.
500 of them. I'm like,
It
dude, you've
is
just
though.
built a new R8. It's
Yeah.
stupid.
But actually, what's interesting is
The
that like these
Ineos is
cars,
now acceptable. I will now only make fun of the Nuvolari. For it's like Honda exiting F1 and coming back the next year. This is what this feels like to me.
no, I feel like launching an R8 now. Okay, let's put it this way. No, we're holding on to this topic. Do you know what one of the least successful Porsches at the moment is? A base 911.
Macan? Oh,
No, a
oh, damn.
base
That's the one I
911.
want. That's the one I would
Yeah,
buy.
well, I mean, good for you, Mo, but there's very few people who want a base 911 because no one ever wants the base. They only want the GT3. And what Audi's basically done now is created a GT3 only model line, right? Because there is no more base. This is now, as a limited edition vehicle, they've like sidestepped the problem that no one wants the base model. Like no one's going to buy a base model R8 anymore. They want the super special one. Fine, we'll only make that one. I think it's
But
interesting.
isn't this to your point about enthusiasts being priced out of new vehicles?
Yes.
All the new enthusiast cars are just too expensive. Like
But they've done
the
the numbers and probably said there is no more, like people can't afford to have it. So like what I wanted to say was this is the R8 for 2026. The economic situation allowed the R8 to be a vehicle that competed with the 911 for multiple different reasons. One of the biggest ones I feel like is ego. Let's remember Ferdinand Piech is not a Porsche, but is a Porsche, and they wanted to give a bit like they made an Audi made a car that competed with the 911. Think about that for a second. Within their own
it,
stable, it's a big
and
middle
it beat
finger.
it and it beat it in the initial group tests. The first generation, yeah, the V8,
So
like
like lots of situations that like you had Ferdinand Piech, you had a market that had a space for that car because people could afford to have it. This is the R8 for 2026 and the world we live in now, where there is a K-shaped economy and we can never afford an R8 and we're not going to even give you one. We're not going to make one for you. It's only for the super wealthy.
so. This is why I'm looking forward. My closing note to the Longbow and the Chinese SC01.
Democratizing sports cars. Mo, you're a genius. I love it. Thank you.
I
That's a very
love
good
it.
point. Yeah.
Yeah. I need that's why as an enthusiast, those are the two cars I'm looking forward. And you know what? The Longbow might not even hit the price point. We do know the Chinese car is $30,000 in its home market. That's really use that works. And we'll be back next whenever. Let's try to do it next week. Um,
Yeah.
for
I've got a lot to think about
well,
now.
I've got a
Thank
long
you.
weekend, so we can do next weekend. We'll have two
Uh,
episodes.
I
We're
am
debating
I am
on
not available.
our listeners don't need to know this. Thank you for listening to the Gulf Spec podcast. As always, this is Anwar. I'm Mohammed or Mo. You can find us wherever you find us or have been finding us. And if you haven't found us before, you'll never find us now. So that's probably it because we don't respond
I'm
to
Mo's
email. No
office.
one checks our Instagram. Yeah. This is literally, we have 30 fans. We're going to stick to that niche market.
Thank you.